Hi, I'm Mandy Rollins and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Disability Solutions West Midlands. I'm going to start with a video, if that's okay. So, could we dim the lights a little so it's easier to see? Oh, have they? Oh, okay. How do I follow that? Marvellous. Can we... Where's the... Ah, sorry, there you are. Can we go back to the slides? Do I just click?
Yeah,
yes.
Just click through that.
Aha, okay. Okay, this is a quick overview of who we are. I mean, you've just seen on the video there what we do. But as far as the organisation's concerned, we're a registered charity. We are very small but perfectly formed. We work with a blend of volunteers who provide a massive amount of resource and support. And really, at our core, we stand for helping people with disabilities and long-term health conditions to find the right solution for them within the context of their lives. So as you can see there, it's very much around improving life chances, improving health and social care outcomes, and very much around improving independence, choice and control. We're a disability user-led organisation which, as I'm sure the name suggests, we have people with disabilities right at the core, and we're very, very proud to say that over 80% of our workforce has lived experience, which is very, very important. Oh, and as you saw there as well, lots of bells and whistles. We're very proud to work very closely with the MOD, helping to support veterans. The family that I come from, I'm very proud to say, on one side of the family, lots of people who worked within the coal industry, and on the other side of the family, lots of people who were really in the military and the Royal Air Force. So the area that we serve. The area that we serve, our patch, it's all about the pits and pots. In North Staffordshire, lots of legacy issues there, as you can see. Lots of legacy issues for people with disabilities. A very, very interesting health demographic that we have within our locality. And one of the things that became quite clear quite quickly is that there are certain challenges that people with disabilities and long-term health conditions, certainly who are based within coalfields areas, there are certain issues that they will face more readily than anybody else within any other community. And when we look at the pounds, shillings and pence, as you can see there, people with disabilities generally face bills of £550 upwards per month, regarding their extra daily living costs. And for people living with cancer, we're looking at £570 a month. So those are huge financial implications. And as we know, it's not all about finance, but we know that without financial integrity, it's very difficult for people to be able to meet good health and social care outcomes, to be able to remain socially included and socially connected, to be able to afford to pay for things like care, like transport. It's it's a fundamental thing that we can't really get away from. Some of the issues certainly for the Stoke-on-Trent area, which is predominantly where we've worked with our partners so far in relation to coalfields, and we've worked with Coalfields Regeneration Trust. As you can see there, Stoke-on-Trent ranked 29th worst in England in relation to income, and then 14th in relation to disability. So some huge figures there. It's not hard to see from some of the pictures that I'm going to put up now as to why we have a very interesting health demographic within the Stoke-on-Trent city area, with very high levels of COPD, obviously chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, lung cancers and other physical disabilities within North Staffs. These are very iconic pictures of the pots. Then moving to the pits. This is Chatley-Whitfield, which I must admit, as a child, I visited Chatley-Whitfield Colliery. It was a working mine at that point, so I do have very fond memories of that particular one. This one's Silverdale. Whoops, I'll go back. The gents there at Silverdale that were very proud, celebrating in 1987 their achievements. And again there, just before Silverdale Colliery was closed, unfortunately, in 1998. Now, the one thing I have learned, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not a local lass when it comes to Stoke-on-Trent. But one of the things that I learned very quickly about Stoke-on-Trent is that there is a huge pride in the place and a huge pride in its past. And the difficulty that many miners faced, losing their jobs, meant that they lost their independence, their ability to pay for their bills, their ability to support their families was taken away. And that had taken away their livelihoods and their independence, had huge negative impacts on mental health. And the losses were far more than just the economic losses. When we look at the impact of welfare reform, which I was really pleased to see was picked up in the report that you mentioned earlier on, when we look at the impacts of welfare reform for the North Staffordshire patch, as you can see there, I'm not going to labour the figures, but the figures are very real when we look at things like the migration from disability living allowance to personal independence payments, and then when we look at the migration from employment support allowance from the bottom over to the new universal credit through the interestingly named managed migration, which is coming soon, interesting times. We were looking, as you can see at the bottom, really the figure that's really important is the red figure at the bottom. We were looking at around about over £172 million being pulled out of that locality year on year, and that's without any new claims. So we knew for our area, for people to enable to remain socially connected, to be able to remain as independent as humanly possible, we needed to make some real big changes in the way that we worked, not as an organisation, but the way we encouraged other people to work. And also we needed to look at how we could continue to support people with disabilities through this. As we know, this is the money that won't be going into the pockets and into the household so people can meet their own everyday needs and their additional needs in relation to disability and long-term health conditions. But one of the things that this figure also does is puts enormous pressure on already creaking public services. So when we think about presentations at A&E, when we think about how difficult it is to get a GP appointment, when we think about the amount of safeguarding cases that we have, both children and adults, and the cost of care packages within the home, this figure then gets bigger. It becomes absolutely enormous. When we look at the real human cost, these are a couple of the cases of ours that hit the headlines. And a lot of this was in relation to the healthcare professional reports, which DWP make decisions based upon. This is one of the really specialist areas that my guys help people with disabilities to ensure they are receiving the income that they need to be able to meet their needs. One of the things that we find is when the HCP report isn't as accurate as perhaps it could be, DWP are often making incorrect decisions, which then means that people who have a very clear entitlement because of their health issues actually are turned down for essential benefits, which then can mean that their needs will unnecessarily escalate. And unfortunately for some of the guys, like the paramedic there, Fred, he actually died before his case was realised. What we're finding is when people with disabilities have to appeal an incorrect decision, what they're faced with is a massive appeals pack that's a blend of legalese and English, which is very difficult for them, understandably, to work through. They're also, from the moment that they tell the system that they need to appeal, it's called an SSCS1, through to actually getting their day in court, because they do have to go to court, because obviously we're challenging a government decision, a government department decision, it's a 64-week wait. That is an enormous amount of time in North Staffordshire at this moment in time. And what we're finding is that people's debt levels increase, people's ability to pay for care is severely, severely diminished. And what we're finding is suicide rates increase. And unfortunately, like these guys here, they experience unnecessary hardship, and so do their families. So again, we can see how those costs to the state as well as to our communities can increase massively. So what do we do at Disability Solutions to help? It's not all doom and gloom. So what we do, which is positive, we know it's positive from the feedback that we receive from the people that we support, our clients. We have a disability advice team. We work very closely with Partners Macmillan to support people who are experiencing cancer diagnoses and also their families and their carers. We have a Disability Connect project, which we're at the beginning of mobilising at the moment with help from the National Lottery. We have our Volunteer to Work project, which we're working with our colleagues with European social funding. And we have our Be All You Can Be project, which is our coalfields baby of the moment, which is very much as its name suggests. It's about helping people with disabilities who are in coalfields areas to move closer to reaching their potential. We also help people with things like personal health budgets and stuff like that, but I don't have time to go into that today. So the headlines of my organisation, these are the numbers that make me exceptionally proud with such a small staffing complement. We have realised almost £12 million last year in confirmed financial gains for the people that we are here to serve, helping people to ensure that the money that we put aside as taxpayers in Her Majesty's Treasury are able to be drawn down through the Department of Works and Pensions into people's homes, into people's pockets, so that they can actually support themselves and remain as independent as possible. With almost 8,500 people supported, and I'm not just talking about a quick phone call, I'm talking about long-term support. When we talk about the wait between SSCS1 to appeal being 64 weeks, and when we think about the whole of that period, it's more than the 64 weeks. Someone fills in a form, it will take at least, usually takes around about 12 weeks for somebody to get the decision back on that. Then if they don't get the decision that they're looking for, then it will take around about 4 weeks for what's called a mandatory reconsideration. Then once they get the decision from the mandatory reconsideration, they then have they have 28 days to actually to put in their appeal, their SSCS1. Then from that date, then they've got a 64-week wait before they go in front of a judge and a disability panel who will ask them some very searching questions after they've waited in a waiting room along with petty criminals and other people who have actually broken the law. We have actually had discussions with the Majesty's Courts and Tribunal Service in relation to how appropriate that is. But after they've been through all of that, then that's when they will either get the award that they're entitled to or not. So you can understand why my workforce is so important. We have an excellent blend. We have a few that are legally trained. We have one qualified barrister, and there are not many barristers that you'll find that will work for less than £26,000 a year. We have one. We're very, very lucky indeed. And certainly our volunteers, when we calculated it using the £11 equation, that stood at £199,650, which is the over 18,000 hours last year in our volunteering hours. So previously, one of our Coalfields Regeneration Trust partnership projects was making computers work for you. What we found was the people that we're here to serve, they were due to be facing, they were experiencing the issues that we talk about when we talk about the digital divide. We know that a lot of things are moving to online, not just things like universal credit, but things like, how do I switch my utilities provider to find the best deal for me? A lot of it's online. And a lot of the guys within our coalfields patches were finding that they were struggling. They'd never turned on a computer. They'd never had to. And as much as we talk about, well, people can use smartphones to find this information, you really can't. They're not very secure, and it's not very easy to see the information. So, as the stats tell you there, we did some absolutely fantastic work. And I'm really pleased to say that that particular group still runs today. It runs on a Friday from 1 till 3 at Feg Hayes. And I'm very proud to say that one of our volunteers here is also one of our directors. He volunteers as helping at the computer skills. But his day job, he is our IT guru and our data security officer. That's Dave. And Dave's been instrumental in making sure that that computer skills class continues to run. We've got some fantastic people there as well. We've got Evelyn, who is my super favourite. She's 96 years of age. And whilst we know we're not helping her to get any closer to the labour market, what we are helping her to do, hopefully, is to remain as connected as she can be. She's learning new skills and she's made lots of new friends and lots of new contacts. And it gives her a reason every week to come out of her house, rain or shine, and come and sit behind a computer. And she's got a friend that she used to have, who used to live in Stoke-on-Trent, who now lives in Florida. And she spends a lot of time emailing her friend in Florida, which is wonderful. The project that we're currently working on with Coalfields at the moment is... Where's it from? Oh, there we go, Be All You Can Be project, sorry. The Be All You Can Be project, that is very much around helping people to reach their potential. This is around structured volunteering, it's about training opportunities, and we're very, very excited about that. Already that we're seeing the numbers are greater than we are able to deal with. We're doing everything from fire marshal training to first aid training, all the way through to CV writing, to interview techniques, all of those things. And very much around not just pointing people in the direction of volunteering, but making sure that people feel supported into volunteering, that people can be regularly reviewed to see whether that volunteering opportunity is working for them. And as an employer, I can go some way to understanding how important that is to employers, to see that people have the skills and also take the time to volunteer. I've got to say, our partnership with Coalfields Regeneration Trust, there's no way we would have gotten through half of what we've gotten through without the support of Alison and Lynn. Absolutely wonderful. Whenever we need them, they're only an email or a phone call away. They've been out to see us a few times, and that is absolutely fantastic. That having that, being part of that kind of safe and supportive network, having a critical friend that we can speak to, and also knowing that, well, very rarely is the answer no. As long as we can provide a bomb-proof rationale and a real reason as to how this is going to help people, and we're keeping people in the lead, generally I find that my Coalfields colleagues are very, very pleased to support us. And I have to say, the information generated by Alison through the grant finder has come in exceptionally useful. We actually started a small charities forum for North Staffordshire, and one of the things we have talked about extensively is the importance of engaging with Coalfields Regeneration Trust. It's not just about the money, it's about the support and it's about the contacts. Those are all the really important things. So as far as the future is concerned for our organisation, this is what we've often, well, what I've often said to staff, as well as the importance of changing, as it says there. When the wind of change blows, some build walls, others build windmills. Well, we will continue to build windmills as long as people with disabilities and long-term health conditions need us to do that. I think, as you said earlier on, I would rather not have to stand here. I would rather that people with disabilities and long-term health conditions get the services and the support that they're entitled to. But unfortunately, until that happens, people like me are going to continue to stand here and talk about those things that are really, really important and try and push forward as much as humanly possible. We're very, very lucky at Disability Solutions in that we have some really, really committed supporters. We have some great investors. And certainly when I look to the future, we're looking at Benefits Advocacy Support Service, which we're busy mobilising now with our friends Henry Smith. As I say, the lottery projects that I mentioned earlier on. Hopefully, I'm hoping we can continue to work with Coalfields Regeneration Trust, because from what we are seeing, unfortunately, the issues for people within coalfields areas, they're not going away anytime soon, but we are chipping away at it one bit at a time. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you very much for listening. Thank you.